gonna move on to Coach of the Year, and I'm gonna kick it right back to John.
Yeah, I mean, you had so many good coaches this year that you could have went with Coach of the Year. I mean, you could have went with Andy Reid. You could have went with Pete Carroll. I mean, I think the job that Dan Campbell did a great job. I don't even remember who I put down for my Coach of the Year, but oh, there it is. Doug Peterson. Man, what he did, Eric's coach, Doug Peterson, what he did in Jacksonville is just insanity. Like I wanted to see Trevor Lawrence blossom as a star because I wanted to see what he can be because I'm a football fan, not just a Dolphins fan, but I love the game of football. I love the young players like Trevor Lawrence, and I want to see what they can be. And so when Doug Peterson came in, and Eric tried telling us like, man, with Doug Peterson, he tried telling us like he can make this young man something. And Trevor Lawrence, it took him a couple games, but man, once he got the hang of the system, he really blossomed. I love what Doug Peterson's done, turning them around. They're a playoff team, and they definitely can beat the Chargers. I think that they can punch anybody in the mouth and give anybody a fight in the AFC. It's not saying that they're going to go to Kansas City or Buffalo or Cincinnati and necessarily win, but I think they're going to handle the Chargers. And then I think in the second round, whoever they play, it's going to be a dogfight. I don't think this team's going to lay down versus anybody, especially the way Doug Peterson, Eric, like the way he coaches his teams, man. It don't matter who it is. Like they're going to go into that playoff game and they're going to scratch and claw. So that's my guy, man.
Wait a minute. Whoa, time out, time out. Time out. That's supposed to be me. Time out. This is the first. We don't typically do this on the sports arena, but when something like this happens, we have to. Breaking news. The crew didn't know. I just got it. Producers in my ear telling me for the first time in the history of the college football championship, TCU has passed the sticks. They've just passed the sticks. They just gonna get up and walk out. Like the game is over. TCU has passed the sticks. So I'm coming to Mike. Mike, talk to me about your Coach of the Year.
Well, John's talking about clawing and this and that. I got my coach biting freaking kneecaps. And yes, it is. It wasn't just because you're here hosting tonight. I have loved Dan Campbell from the beginning, not because, he did play for the Cowboys for a bit. We can toss it. We can go back there. No, he's a Parcells guy. I mean, I know he was down in Miami, obviously took over in Miami. John knows that too, but the fact his halftime interview, and that's not what, it wasn't like, overreaction. His halftime interview last night, I know you saw it, Raylan, when he's like, what's your motivation? They're like, well, if we can't go, we're sending them home too. Like, no coach ever says that. Like, and the fact that he didn't say it like laughing or condescending, it was straight-laced. It was, hey, they came here to punch him in the mouth. And look, Jared Goff has gotten ripped on. To John's point earlier, Jeff Fisher had a lot to do with that. We saw what Jared Goff could be with the running game. The arm strength was never an issue for Jared Goff. The turnovers, not having a running game, and John, you said Jeff Fisher was over 500. He was never. His birthday got changed to July 9th because he was always 7 to 9 with all the talent that he always had. But that being said, Dan Campbell, look, he let his coordinators do his thing. Coach, that team has his imprint, the way he played, his personality. And Ray, I don't need to tell you, you watch your team, you know your team. The fact that he said that at halftime and they just came out and Aaron Rodgers threw up that one interception, I mean, just getting hit in the mouth. Like, I love seeing that. I was so pissed the Rams didn't win because I much rather would have seen them in the playoffs, although either one going to San Francisco. That would have been an interesting matchup. Seattle's going to get killed. We'll get to that later. But Dan Campbell's got to be the coach of the year. You go 1-6, and then you get your team to win 7 out of the last 8. Man, get out of town. Like, look, we had our half-season leaders, and he literally caught them and lapped them.
I will say, I don't know between the two that you guys just picked. I mean, you can make the same case for both. I put up a picture on Facebook that at week 10, week 11, the Titans were 7-3 and the Jags were 3-7, right? And who would have thought that coming into week 18 that the Titans would be the team that had to win to get in, right? Like, Doug Peterson and Dan Campbell, both in their own right, hell of a job, like digging their teams out of that hole. neither's a wrong choice. Talk to me, E. Who is your coach of the year?
Well, you talk about digging a team out of a hole. Let's go back and look at a team in the NFC East that over the course of 5 years couldn't put together 6 wins if their life depended on it. And then all of a sudden, Brian Daboll comes in, and this is the crazy part about the New York Football Giants and why Brian Daboll is the coach of the year. You want to talk about consistency. This is a man who gave everybody in the NFL the blueprint, because what did they have? Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, and a defense. The wide receiving core, Tooney went to Kansas City, and it was like, we can't stop Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. At one point, this team was second in the NFC East and atop the NFL with regard to record. Now, granted, once people finally woke up around week 12 and was like, oh, if we stop Daniel Jones and we stop Saquon, we might actually win. Okay. But by that point, the Giants were already in a position to make it to the postseason, which is exactly where they're at. Granted, they're the number 6 seed. They got to go to Minnesota and play Minnesota. We'll touch on that on Wednesday. But what I'm saying to you is, for a coach to come in, much like Dan Campbell, much like Doug Peterson, and get this team to drink the Kool-Aid and kind of bring back the memory of, hey, you do know that Saquon Barkley has thighs the size of tree trunks and can run through the front 4 of a defense. Brian Daboll, coach of the year.
Not mad at that at all, E. But I'm going to switch gears, and this is going to come full circle. Anybody know how many coach of the years Phil Jackson got?
2?
3?
1.
Oh.
1. 6 championships. No, 10 championships.
10.
11. 6 with the Bulls, 5 with the Lakers. 11 championships. 1 coach of the year, right? Jerry Sloan never won coach of the year. Steve Kerr, first 3 years in the NBA, won 67, 73, and 67 games. He has 1 coach of the year. Y'all know why that is? Because sometimes greatness gets overlooked. Like when you're expected to be good, you don't get credit for being good, right? And that's why my coach of the year has to go to this guy, man. When you look at everything that this team went through this year, right? Starting quarterback, we're going to go with the young guy. He gets hurt, no matter, we're going to bring the veteran in. He gets hurt, we're going to go with Mr. Irrelevant, and we're still going to win games. We're not just going to win games, we're going to beat the brakes off of people. Like, this team is, like, this is the definition of winning by coaching. Your system works. It's not no one player. Deebo Samuel get hurt, no problem. Kittle wasn't playing well last year up until early this year, no problem. Starting quarterback get hurt, no problem. Second string hurt, no problem. Starting running back hurt, fill another guy in, we'll be fine. Another running back get hurt, go get McCaffrey, we'll be fine. Like, it doesn't matter who you plug in. This team is good year in, year out. And here they are sitting at the number 2 seed. What, they 2 or 3?
2.
2. They passed Minnesota, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sitting at number 2 seed. What, 13-4?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With a quarterback that none of us knew before this year.
Well, I did.
You get my point, though. Right? That's impressive, man. And again, because San Francisco's name carries the weight that it does. And coming into the season, based on how they lost in the playoffs last year, San Francisco's that team. You go, man, they're a quarterback away. Maybe Trey Lance is the answer. No, put Jimmy G back in. They'll be okay. They'll make a playoff run. Then he gets hurt, and you think they're done. No, just the number 2 seed in the NFC. Like, shout out to Shanahan. Let me see.
And their defense too, but you're right. I 100% agree with everything you just said, because if you don't have a coach like that in place that can plug and play these guys and make them feel confident, but that defense has a little bit to do with it. But
yeah, but that defense, Mike, speaks to DeMeco Ryan, and I know he's up for a head coaching job somewhere.
Right.
But
I think Christian McCaffrey kind of helps too.
Just keep on talking about their defense. Let's jump to our defensive players of the year. Talk to me,
yeah.
E.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you, at the beginning, it took a lot for me to say it was Micah Parsons. He's a Penn State guy, but he's playing on the worst team in the NFL. But you know what? Second half of the season, this guy came out and just changed my mind. Ladies and gentlemen, that man right there on the screen, Bosa, Mr. Bosa, Mr. Nick Bosa. So that's for the big guard. I don't even know his team's defensive guys. I'm telling you, that man right there, under the tutelage, go look it up so you know what it means, of DeMeco Ryan, has made this defensive side of the San Francisco 49ers, I don't even know what the word is. I can say formidable, but whatever above that is. I'm not calling them elite just yet, but they damn near close to it. The fact that teams were unable to score in the second half of games against this defense, it was led because of that man right there, Nick Bosa, Defensive Player of the Year.
Not mad at that pick at all. Come on with it, John.
Yeah, I mean, bring me, you two get off the screen. Bring me that man right there, Eric Wilson. Bring me just him and I, please. Just him and I. Get everybody else off the screen. I'm so disappointed in you. How in the hell do you not pick Hassan Reddick? The Cardinals were stupid for letting him go. The Panthers, when they let him go, I was like, you are so stupid because this guy is so damn talented, but he's been underrated his entire career. Then the Eagles pick him up, and I said he is the best defensive pickup anybody has made this all season. CJ Gardner-Johnson was fantastic for you guys. A lot of picks. But this guy has been so damn good for you guys, and I feel like he's not going to get Defensive Player of the Year because his name really doesn't carry a whole lot of weight. But if you watch the game of football and if you watch this guy rush the passer, damn if he cannot get to the quarterback. Like, he is a hell of a player, but he's always been underrated and overlooked. In Arizona, overlooked. Carolina, overlooked. Like, even on the Eagles, because you got Slay and Gardner-Johnson and you got all the other names on that defense, and Jalen Hurts MVP, you got A.J. Brown. This guy's not going to get any attention, but what he did this year, if people go and look at his stats, the guy should be considered for Defensive Player of the Year. I think he should win Defensive Player of the Year, but we know it tends to be a popularity contest. Hence, Aaron Donald, one of his Defensive Player of the Years that he got over TJ Watt. So, Eric, I can't believe you didn't pick Hassan Reddick. How in the hell do you pick Bosa over your own guy with the season that he had? I just don't get it.
So
Sorry.
may I respond to John,
Yeah,
please, before we continue on?
Absolutely, sir.
John, let me just say this to you. My reason for not picking Hassan Reddick is simply this. Because we always talk about if that player was not on, and this is how I base my awards, if you will. If that player was not on that team, what would that team be like? And let's take defenses, okay? You elocuted beautifully members of my Philadelphia Eagles that I didn't even think you knew, John Shear, so thank you. But that's the point. Even if Hassan Reddick was not on the Philadelphia Eagles, we still had CJ Gardner-Johnson. We had a rookie in Jordan Davis. We had Fletcher. We had Brandon. We had Epps. We had Blankenship. We had Big Slay. So we had.
But that's my
hold
point.
on, John. We had a plethora to where if Reddick was not there, we would still be okay. You take Nick Bosa off the 49ers, you tell me the defense that would be under DeMeco Ryan, because I don't think they would have the same impact. Now, listen, if Hassan Reddick wins Defensive Player of the Year, I will be happier than a pig in squat. But the bottom line is this. The Philadelphia Eagles ain't about awards, John. You know what they about? One simple thing. They about that ring, John.
I'm just saying, man, like, dude had 16 and a half sacks. He had a hell of a year. If you take that pressure and all them sacks away, like, I don't think the Eagles defense plays nearly as well.
Well, I would agree to disagree with you because you don't know our depth chart like I do. But go ahead. We can keep it moving.
Just saying.
I would just like to say that the show is much better when we hate on each other's teams. Like when John comes in here and gonna give Eric a lecture on not picking the Philadelphia Eagle and talk about how good he is. Meanwhile, it feels like they just scored 12 more times. It's just unreal at this point.
I thought Georgia would lay off after 52, man.
No, man, they are
They've
really
adopted
out
that Jimmy
there.
Johnson mentality.
They're just running the
Keep
ball.
running it till you stop us.
I just want to say it first, TCU should be banned from the college football playoffs forever.
No, stop
Ban
it,
them
John.
forever.
Stop
They
it.
should be automatically disqualified for life.
You know what?
Get out of here. That nonsense. Thank you.
So really quick, I would like to apologize in advance to our viewers as we wrap up our Defensive Player of the Year segment. We're going to kick it over to the West Coast, the left coast, and he finally gets the opportunity to talk about a Cowboy. So cue up the world's smallest violins, cue up the Titanic theme music. My heart will go on.
Screen with this too.
Michael Caratanuda, talk to us, sir. Your Defensive Player of the Year.
Well, no, John got my heart going because Hassan Reddick didn't put nearly the effort here in Arizona, and I saw him more here in Arizona, and he was terrible. So
Okay,
fine,
he's going to talk, so I'll be back.
He got better. Anyway, Micah oh man, that's I listened to you, John. Anyway, Micah Parsons, look, that through the first half of the season, I think he was there. Were there some games? Absolutely. Yesterday was a clunker pretty much for the whole team. But what he did overall, like his effect on other guys, the way Dorrance Armstrong came on. I mean, you listen to Dan Quinn talk weekly, just each week how he got better. Even Dante Fowler Jr., Quentin Bohanna before he went down, even Odigizua, and I love saying his name, but Odigizua. But Micah Parsons' effect, the fact he did everything all over the field. Oh, now I'll say it. Traits that he learned at Penn State to become a great linebacker, a great cover person, a great pass rusher. Dan Quinn moves him around. I mean, it's pulling the strings. It's what he did for that defense. And I thought him and Nick Bosa were like, I thought he was good amount ahead of Nick Bosa, and Nick Bosa did charge in. So as much as I can't stand the Niners, I do not hate Eric's pick. But what Micah Parsons meant to that defense, and when he was not on the field, I mean, even guys like when Anthony Barr had to fill in for Leighton Vander Esch, when Leighton Vander Esch is on the field, like it's just the Micah Parsons effect, as much as it pains Eric, is awesome. Hey, man, John got longer than that for Hassan Reddick. Town with that. But anyway, Micah Parsons, Defensive Player of the Year.
Hey, man, shout out to Ensign's Red Salted Caramel Whiskey, because I'm drinking it and they need to be paying me for it, having listening to Mike talk about damn Micah Parsons.
How can you hate on Micah Parsons? How can you hate on Micah Parsons?
Every week, Micah Parsons. Every week, Micah Parsons.
Hey, Mike.
Am I wrong?
Who's your Defensive Player of the Year? Micah Parsons.
Yes, thank you.
You know, haters, man. I see good things about you. Lions,
Listen, I didn't
Nobody
even give
ever
one.
replies to me except for John.
Hey,
what
Mike.
the hell, man?
Goodbye. Go ahead, Ray. I'm sorry.
I didn't give one because mine basically came down to Bosa and Parsons. I don't think either pick is wrong. So wasn't no need of me harping on the same thing. So we're gonna take one more break, pay some bills, and we're gonna get back and we're gonna jump into that MVP discussion. Y'all stay tuned.